fucking baddest ones there, bro.
Yeah.
No bullshit.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think with a lot of that stuff is like, it just depends too on how much, like if you're out and you're gonna be out, guiding and stuff like that, and you're gonna spend lots of days.
You got, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna be out there, you gotta
100%.
have good shit. It's like swirls, you know.
Yep.
And that's just kind of like where I'm at with everything. Is like, I like $3.99. You know what I mean? But
Big fan.
Yeah,
big fan.
All right, we ready? Good.
Yep.
All right, let's do this, Joel.
All right.
Nope, wrong one. Wrong one. Who just jacked my shit up? What up? What up? What up? We are back. Hey, I hope you had.
I did. I mean, it was a whole lot of nothing.
Oh yeah, you don't have kids then.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I
why.
do.
That's why.
Well, we had a great Halloween. It felt like Halloween this year just procrastinated. We had a Halloween party last night to go to in November.
Nice.
For the whole Halloween deal now.
Dude, I do and so I get a whole pile of candy. And I do my experiment in human dynamics.
Okay.
So when kids come to the door, I just hold the whole thing out and then just watch to see how they've been raised.
Yep. It's
like,
either the little shits are gonna go.
They go. They like look at you and they go, how many? And I'm like, go ahead. You know? And then like some kids are just like they'll just naturally just take one.
Yep.
And then if you're like, hey, go ahead. And then some kids are like, for real?
Boom, boom, boom. Yep.
And I'm like, you're a little punk.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's honestly the truth on how some of them are,
Yeah.
Like we get a few of them. You see the notes that says take one.
Yeah.
And you walk in there and you watch those kids that are ahead of my kids and they're like handfuls, 2 handfuls at a time. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
But it's kids, I guess. But
yeah.
Anyway, we got Tomas running the show. So everybody bear with us. It's been a couple weeks since we've been back in studio. So you got it, Tomas?
I got it.
All right. Make me look actually really thin on these pictures, okay? You got a lot of heat on that. How you gonna let the fat Mexican drop Justin Gaethje? I was like, what the fuck, dog? You should have seen me like 2 months ago. I was real fat. But anyways, today's guest is my buddy Joel from Hunt, Hike, Harvest, and we've been meeting a
little while.
And we worked out. Schedules have just been crazy on both ends. And I was just talking to you about some of your things that you got going on, and I don't feel so bad now. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like when I think, I want to have a pity party for myself.
Right.
You hear some other buddy guys' problems, and you're like, oh, it ain't that bad.
I do the same thing sometimes. There's no doubt about that. But it's I think it's the conditioned response. People like, hey, how's things going? I'm busy.
Yeah,
everybody's busy. It's just what kind of busy, right?
Well, and that's, I guess, when it comes to priorities, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's busy too, but priorities, you know what I mean? Where sometimes where the priorities that I want ain't always the best thing I need, right? Like,
that's for sure.
Like we were just talking about hunting. Would we not want to go hunting right now, especially coming the rut of deer season?
Right.
We want to do it. So I mean, I'm lucky enough where I get to go to Nebraska, commentate, make a little money, and deer hunt.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped about that.
There ain't nothing wrong with that. I don't get back there enough. I'll tell you that much. I mean,
Where is home at back there?
Ogallala. Yeah. So my parents live right on Lake McConaughey.
Oh wow.
They're like right on the water.
No kidding. So, You don't get to go back much in the summer, huh?
I went back over the 4th.
Yeah.
Which it's always nice, and
hot as hell too.
Yeah.
It's
crazy to me. Like when I go back there, it's like just a couple 100 miles, and I'm like, oh man, it's
humidity,
like more humid. Like I did that in college, right? So I went from there to Kearney. I played baseball at Kearney.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, University of Nebraska Kearney. I played baseball there. So go from Ogallala to Kearney, got hotter and humider, right?
Yep.
Then I got done with. I moved to Omaha for.
Shit!
And then that was even worse. And I was like, there ain't no chance I'm going any farther east.
No.
So I went,
Omaha, the mosquitoes and
man.
everything are just, it's like triple hot,
yeah,
triple humidity.
And so I went back to Kearney, did grad school, and then after that I moved to Colorado, and that was in 2002. And
okay, so you've been up here probably 2 years ahead of me.
Yeah.
And you never went back.
No.
I mean, I love Nebraska. I do. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But I mean, for some reason, the mountains are just my cup of tea now, man.
That's why I tell people too. Like,
yeah.
It was close enough when I was young, right? Like we came out here and skied when we were kids and stuff. And then, you know, people always talk about that with Colorado, like the winters are what like brings people here for the skiing and all that stuff. But the summer's what keeps you here.
Yeah. I mean, the winters aren't even that bad. Like, you know, growing up in Nebraska, I mean, I grew up in North Platte, so you're 50 miles from me, right?
Oh, yeah.
When it got cold there, it fucking gets cold there.
Dude, you're front end loading snow out of the driveway.
Dude, it's nuts. And like, what I try to tell my dad all the time, he's like, I don't know how you like that mountain shit. And I'm like, Dad, you guys are way colder than we are.
For sure. Yeah.
The wind chill. And like when we get dumped on, yeah, we get more snow.
Yeah.
But it's gone the next day.
Yeah.
It's there all winter long, dude.
It just stays.
It stays.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that's Nebraska for you. But like, honestly, like I love Nebraska because I grew up whitetail hunting, right? I mean, that's like my joy. And I think that's why I enjoy whitetail hunting. Like probably one of my favorite ones because it's just, I don't know, those little fuckers are sneaky as hell, dude.
Yeah.
They come out of nowhere, the ghost, and I don't know. I just yell, and nothing against, you know, mule deer, but man, for some reason I just think they're just,
yeah.
I don't know.
What I mean, the prep and, you know, studying and scouting and
you
know, all that stuff that those guys used to do to try and track down, you know, a good deer every year. It's
crazy,
absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, and we have a lot of common friends too, you know, like the Gallahairs.
Yep. Oh yeah.
You know, Jason Swanson.
Probably. Oh yeah. I know them all. Yeah.
So, like Swanson, that dude was absolutely, he still is. He's a lunatic.
Hey, he shoots big deer though, man. Like I ain't gonna lie.
I remember like one year, like he spent so much time like chasing deer in the off season that he had deer figured out by which river they ran. He could look at and be like, that's a South Platte deer, that's a North Platte deer.
Really? Yeah, he's on another level. Like that's like I love it, but they're infatuated with that shit, you know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he's a good dude. I than my brother there, and they went to St. Pat's down there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he's just always been good. Like even when he was a cop down there, I've been running him all the time, and we'd talk, and I'd be like, "How big are your deer down there?"
Yeah,
he goes, "They're big right now." I'm like,
well, because he had the full run of things on Chad Brown's property for a long time,
and that was huge.
Chad let us go hunt pheasants on his property one year.
Phenomenal.
My life.
Yep.
I mean, he's like, "Yeah, you guys go ahead." You know, Chad was all scratchy and growly.
Yep.
Crap, you know.
Yep.
He was like, "Yeah, you guys go ahead." And we rolled in there one day, and we were just like,
"This is like how is this even part of Nebraska?" Right?
Yeah.
Like it's different. It's crazy. I've been out there one time, and it's just unique, right?
Yeah.
It's heaven. Honestly, it's a heaven place.
It is nice.
But anyways, yeah, we have tons of friends, but like the reason like we kind of like hooked up in the first place was like what you do. You work with a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
But obviously we like hunting. And then you guys came up with you know, your hike hunt harvest deal. How did that come about on everything?
Yeah, so it was interesting. It was kind of one of those things where, you know, I've been a strength conditioning coach for almost 25 years now. Like it's literally what I've done.
Yeah.
You know, I've bachelor's and master's degree in exercise science, worked as a college strength coach for like 10 years. And then from there, just kind of slowly got out of the college world and started moving more into kind of the private sector and opened my first facility. And, you know, obviously during that whole time, you know, I've hunted my whole life.
Right.
And Darby friend that I mentioned to you from back
the tall
home.
one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. What position did he play?
He was like a D end.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I would always hear these stories about, his dad used to guide when he was a kid on the South Gate of Yellowstone. So he got into elk hunting and all that stuff
Oh,
at
really?
an early age. Yeah, because that's where his dad grew up. And I would always hear these stories from them about like, oh yeah, we're going to elk camp, this and that, and I would hear them tell stories around, beers and campfires,
Yeah.
back home. And I'm like, well, what do I got to do to, go
Yeah.
on one of those? So in about 2000, I finally got, I got the invite to go on an elk hunt, and I was like, this is freaking amazing,
Right.
and I was like, I was hooked. We rifle hunted like third season for 5 or 6 years or something like that. And I just had always wanted to like get into bow hunting. I just loved everything about bow hunting. I just had never done it. My dad was, grew up in the Dakotas. We upland bird hunted, pheasant hunted, all that kind of stuff, mostly when I was a kid, and waterfowl and things like that. And then Darby kind of got me into, more of the big game side, and that just progressed. And so when we finally got into kind of having my own facility, I started training every year to get ready to, go up to the mountains.
Right.
And so for probably 5 or 6 more years, I just did that and really didn't think anything of it. And then my current business partner, Jason, who's, my kind of cohort with H3O, he's like, which wasn't H3O at the time. He's like, we should just, like start doing this, create a company around training for big game hunting. He's like, this is what you do.
There's a demand for it.
Right. And I was like, yeah, we should. And so as I was telling you before we kind of jumped on, like, Jason, played in the big leagues for 7-8 years, pitched, and as you see too, right, like there's always just this natural progression, I think, of athletes in the outdoors. And so he had started getting in hunting, and then he became the guy who comes to me and goes, hey man, what do I got to do to go on one of those elk hunts?
Oh, for real?
For real.
Okay.
And so it was one of those things where I go, well, you got to buy a bow first.
Yeah.
And so he goes, he buys a bow, and he goes, I got a bow now. I'm like, all right, cool. Well,
That's your first step.
I was like,
that's
so
good.
now we got to shoot a whole bunch, and then next year you can come with us. And so we did. And so that was kind of how the conversation progressed into, starting the company. And skill set has a lot of graphic design, and he's so good with all the technology piece. So like everything you see on our site, Jason has built.
Okay.
The imaging, the websites, like even on our fast, which is our athletic side, like he's done 100% of it. I mean, we talk about like saving money.
Yeah.
Like just thousands of dollars just because that's his
skill.
And so then I just kind of started running on the training side. And so I've been slowly but surely trying to like build out like, how are we going to differentiate what we do,
Right.
And that's been kind of where it started. And it's just been a slow burn because as it's like we run our day-to-day operation, which is high school, college, pro guys coming in every day. And this has kind of been what I call our passion project, which is how are we going to build this brand within, what we do, what I do for a living, basically. And I've just tried to figure out a way where I can kind of merge what I love to do with what I do for a living. And that's what Hunt Hike Harvest kind of is.
So I guess when, you hear about it all day. I mean, you get there's forums out there. There's, you look back at what some of these guys have done, you get like Elk Shape and all them, all these, what is his name? Dan Staten. From anywhere from like Cam Haynes, the runner to like, First Form. I guess what would separate you guys from all them other companies? I mean, I specialize, like even you said you work with a bunch of pros, right?
Yeah.
And not saying that a hunter isn't a pro, but you're working with different caliber of athletes. You know what I mean? And let's just keep it real. Like what do you guys work with the Rapids now? Training camp now?
No, Colorado Mammoth.
Yeah.
Lacrosse.
Yeah. So, I mean, you work with a higher level of athletes, right? I mean, those guys, that's what they do, right? Just like me working with pro fighters.
Yep.
You work with them, and so it's a difference, not like a cookie cut. So you get it there, but I will say this: working at that level, you have to maybe do you tone it down a little bit?
That's part of like the process in itself, right? And you kind of mentioned like the cookie cutter thing, right? And that's the struggle, I think, a lot with training in general. Is in our world now of like, everybody wants things to be so accessible, right? Like, and I fight this all the time, because I like tell people all the time, I'm like the old grumpy fuck now, where it's like, when people started doing like online training, I'm like, man, that's crap. Like, how you can't like train someone online. Like, the craft is being able to see stuff and coach people and give them feedback,
hands on,
right? And so I've changed my tone with that a little bit, because it's just if you're going to reach more people, you have to find a way. And now we have an app-based integration that we use. It's a Colorado-based company called Train Heroic, where everything in there has videos connected to it. I'm basically a virtual coach to you. You can message me in there. I can track progress and all that. So we package a lot of those things. But the real kind of where the rubber hits the road for me is like, you can't just put out like any program. Like, I could give Tomas, you, me, the same program, 8 weeks, 10 weeks down the road. Well, we're not all going to end up at the same place in 10 weeks. Right. So it's how you manipulate all of those things to get someone where they need to go that becomes the biggest part of the equation. And so for me, like, I just have always had more of a hands-on feel with things, where if I'm going to give someone a program, I want to talk to them. I want to know what they've done, where they've been, what limitations they have, where, what's their goal, that kind of stuff, and try and build something that's going to fit them, and not just, it's easy, like CrossFit can be a real easy one to bash on, the workout of the day. Well, how are 20, 30, 40,000 people across the country going to do the same freaking workout?
I know. I'm one of the guys who you can say CrossFit the fuck off. I mean, I'm just not me, right? Like,
I feel good.
And it's not like, it's not like, believe me, I've done my wrestling coach, Ben Charrington, and his dad, they're like elite, they're wad getters, you know what I mean? Like, they get it. Like, they do it, and we go on. I do their workouts with them when we go on trips. And they are good workouts, right? They are. Some of them are. But like, I just don't see how, like, some of these people that start up and they think they're just going to go in there and do it. No, I get that, but the form gets all fucking out of whack. And being a personal trainer, like that's what I was, before I did all this stuff, was you can't literally teach somebody, even like we were talking about the online deal, is like, I can't, I'm not there yet. I don't see how it's tough. It's tough. But I say that, and we do these combos of, at the gym with Trev, crazy, so, and I'm like scratching my head. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm thinking like with my people, you know what I mean? Like, cause they pay a great money for it. So I feel like I'm not doing them, I'm doing a disservice if they're not next to me. You know what I mean?
I'm the same way, right? And I think that's where we've tried to continue to, find a way to educate. Like, at the end of the day, you ask, get back to the question is like, how are we different, right? And number one is, education. You have to educate people. The thing that frustrates me a lot within the training world is the stuff that you and I talked about beforehand, which is like, do you know how to reach people? Do you know how to, market, the social media game, all this other stuff, right? Because you can take someone who literally doesn't know their ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to training, and they'll sell programs freaking out
left and right.
And I sit back and go like, I have two sides of me. I have the person who gets pissed off by it, and then the person that gets pissed off at myself and go, I'm the idiot. Like, I got to figure this out.
I can't beat him. I got to join him somehow and compete with him there. Right. And that's, I think that's today's society. Because everything is, on devices. Everything is device. I mean, we were just talking about how you do, what was that? Riverside. We're talking about podcasting, right? Like how technology that is, so it is. Maybe we're a bunch of old school motherfuckers that just need to up our game, right?
That's what I tell people.
That's showing our age, bro. That's it.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I tell people all the time, like, we have our own podcast, right? And it's based on, I tell people there's like, I selfishly love to have people on, get a chance to interact with them, meet people, right? Like we've had some people on our podcast where I'm just like, man, this is cool. I just want to get a chance to talk to this person, right? Like, it's awesome. But then, you know, we have a vein where, you know, like we have our mountain fitness series, right? Which is like, that is solely dedicated, like provide people with a better understanding of like what we do, right? So
oh shit, this is really happening,
right. And so that's one of the things that my other business partner talks about, is like, how are we going to create separators? And from that, we've taken a stance that, like, if you go to, you know, our website, hunthikeharvest.com, right, like go to our team, right, and I'll put our team in terms of the people that are, you know, number one, first and foremost, avid hunters, love to hunt, love to be in the outdoors, passionate about it.
They get it.
But then go look at their resumes. Mike Barnes, former NFL strength conditioning coach, former education director at the National Strength Association, right? Like everybody on our team has degrees, has decades of experience training people. And the flip side of that is, you know, you talk about like being in, you know, what exists in the hunting space is like a lot of people that like to work out a lot that then started like trying to tell other people how to work out with no background, no education, right?
That's the internet.
And that's where I go, like, bro, if you got into legal trouble, and like Tomas watched a whole lot of like Law and Order, would you be like, hey, bro, you help me out? Like, what the fuck is that?
Hey, that is an analogy right there.
You know
what
I'm saying? Yeah. And like, that's what pisses me off.
I fucking love that
about the training world is like, just because you work out a lot, like, absolutely, can you answer the question why? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Right. And even to that extent, we see a lot of it in, you know, the 30 and 20 somethings that like they just want to do hard shit, and that's okay, but that's not an end game, a long play, right? Like I'm more
longevity is not going to be there.
And I'm like, I'm more into like, how do we take the things that we know scientifically within research and you know, our education, to put all that stuff into a context of like keeping you healthy,
right,
getting you to your goal, right? Like, I'm going to make you feel more tags, but I'm going to try and like my like take home message is, my goal is to try and get people to have better experiences.
I mean, let's keep it real. When you're not a personal experience, there's right. Like I feel like I'm always a good shape, right? Like I can do some things, but when I comes to like day 2, day 3 in the backcountry,
100%.
And the only thing that carries me, I fucking hate it, but like, is that mentality that I have of like, you know, don't quit and don't be a bitch, right? Like my fighting spirit, right?
Yeah.
But like, I always tell myself, it would be so much easier if I just train a little bit less, quit drinking so fucking much, and just.
Hey, I like beer too, man.
Let's
get that straight.
But that's what I said. Like, I like to have a good time, but all it does is take, it's priorities again, you know, like, hey, let's work out a little extra more. And I think that's one thing I've realized, like, as I've gotten older, I feel like, okay, if I want to do things and I want to continue to, you know, be this person that, you know, have a podcast and talk, and I got to change some shit up, and I got to do some things, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I mean, and then like, you know, if I want to keep my job training with Justin, I got to do some in my life too, right? I can't be, what's his name off of Rocky? Oh, Paulie. On the outside of the range, drinking, smoking a cigar and having a glass of whiskey. I wish I could, but I can't do that, right? But like, that's why I said, like, it's just priorities of like, we got to literally work out the difference between, you know, being in shape and just, you know, having muscles and looking good, you know, in front of a mirror.
Well, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, people say, oh, like that person, that guy, like, in shape for what? Right.
A perfect example, right?
Fat people finish marathons all the time.
Yeah. No,
right?
For real.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that's okay. Like, good creating such a higher level understanding of what that actually means. Right. So I'm fortunate because I do a lot of consulting. with the military, first responders, fire, police, law enforcement. I travel all over the country. I teach physical readiness and stuff like that. And
Which they need that more than anybody.
yeah, it's great. Like, I love that aspect of it, to like work with those types of people, that, like, I mean, their level of purpose, you get into a fight, you win or lose.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
It happens, right? Like, that's part of sport. These people losing is potentially fatal, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I love just being able to be a part of that and help those. Obviously they pay me, I mean, which is good.
Yeah,
but like,
right.
But at the same time, it's like I would gladly do a lot of that stuff, just because of how much I respect those people.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we've done in terms of utilization of that information, especially from a research perspective, is we've looked at military rucking, high altitude rucking, how much weight they got on their back, with comparison to body weight and those types of things, and really just kind of taken that and tweaked it a little bit into, well, weight is weight, right? So if you got a guy, who's in, an austere environment over in friggin', Iraq or whatever, where there's still some good altitude, and they've got 80 pounds on their back, and we're seeing what does their output look like physically and so on and so forth. Well, 8,000 feet there is no different than 8,000 feet here, other than potentially temperature. There's some, climate things or whatever.
Right.
So we started taking that research and building it into how we're creating programs for hunters here. Right. And utilizing that information to better understand, like, what do those physical demands look like? What do, weight on your back in terms of like distance traveled, average heart rates. Like, we have a metabolic lab in our facility where we can do blood lactate stuff. We can figure out functional threshold for power, VO2 max, like all those types of things. So we've done a bunch of research where, again, like, not poo-pooing, but like, I don't know if anybody else in the game
that's facts.
is like, there's one that said they got a lab where I've done some recon and know people that have been there. There ain't what they call it.
Yeah, it's a gym.
It's a gym.
Yeah.
We have a lab. We actually have a lab. We call it the pain cave, which it sucks to go in there.
Yeah.
But that's how we're kind of like trying to elevate the level of, the way that we do things.
You're putting a little science behind everything.
100%.
I mean, that's ideal, right? Like, you got to have knowledge is power, and like, literally, can you get there with a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication? Same thing. Yeah. But
sure.
Why? Like, here's my deal. Like, even like with, like the peptides that are coming out now with and everything, and, TRT, and like, why would I not want to try that if I'm going to better myself?
Yeah.
Right. Like, why would I?
Been dabbling with that? Like, a lot.
I've been on a year now, and I've been doing it, and I'm a fucking fan of it, right? Because I was tired of taking naps at 1:00 in the afternoon. Tired of just not having that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm there.
Yeah, and now I'm like fucking ready to conquer every day.
That's awesome.
It's crazy, right? So like, I'm motivated to go to the lab. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do that. So, that's why I said, like, why would I not want to listen to a guy that has science behind it to make my workouts, to get to my goal better and faster and the right way and not get hurt? You know what I mean?
Ultimately, that's like the caveat to everything, right? Is like, if you just blindly do a bunch of hard crap, like, you might get better to some degree, right? And it goes back to some of that like CrossFit stuff, right? Like, I always say there's never bad programs, there's usually bad coaching.
Yep.
Right. People go like, oh, do you hate CrossFit? And I'm like, well, do they squat in CrossFit? I'm like, yeah. And they go, do they do power cleans? Yeah. Do they throw med balls? Yeah. And I'm like, do they push and pull? And like, well, I do too. Like, I do all those things too.
Yep.
So what makes it CrossFit is how you're coaching it, is how you're teaching it, and the method with which you're implementing it. That's what makes it CrossFit.
Ah, shit. There you go.
Right. So you're manipulating things out of context a lot of times, especially on the Olympic side, where, we know from, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole being too nerdy, but it's like your nervous system at the neuromuscular junction where the nerve connects to the muscle. If you're going to do Olympic lifting, right, by the time you get to about 4 to 5 reps, when you figure the output of what that nervous system has to produce to get that muscle to
fire,
Once you get to about 4 or 5 reps, that neuromuscular junction starts to dissipate. So you start to lose kind of the connection, right? It'd be like kind of slowly fraying this rope on this cable, right? Well, if you go and do that for 2 or 3 minutes, then the technical aspect, like what you talked about in terms of technique and everything else, starts to go downhill, right? So if people will argue like, oh, you're going to build some capacity and this and that, but I'm like, but those were designed to train for power, not endurance, right?
There's a difference.
Right? And so that's where, to me, I'm like, if you don't understand that, then you're just blindly going into things and putting yourself potentially in harm's way, right? So, anyway.
Well, and I, now that we're on the subject, is like, and you guys have, the hunting aspect. I'm sure you guys have it down to a pretty good, layout of what you're going to do for like newcomers and beginners or intermediates. When I people like like Justin, like I always try to do training camps with him, right? And then this was part of like why I started TRT, because I would do like the diet, I would do fucking the workouts, and they just wasn't there. Like I was just like, dude, what the fuck? Now, like the last fight with Max Holloway, I went to a training camp through that the whole time, and it felt fucking amazing, right? Know that I'm just a beginner again, starting out. Let's keep it real. Training for a fight, and we usually start 10 weeks out. He does a 10-week training camp. And, two of those weeks are usually just trying to get more in shape for the camp, right?
Yeah.
And so it just, I always try to tell people I come into a gym or wherever, I always want to be treated like the newbie. I'm not the fucking guy that, oh yeah, I know this. No, why am I here?
Yeah.
Teach me. You know what I mean? Start me out where you think I need to go, and then I'll go from there.
Yeah.
I think people that, come in need to put their fucking humbleness away, keep a little humble in them, but let your work ethic show for it. You know what I mean? Like we get some guys that come in the gym like, I'm ready to, do this. And then, bitch, you ain't ready for this.
No.
And they're like, I'm like, go hit the bag for 3 minutes straight.
Yeah.
And tell me you're ready for this.
Right.
You're not,
Well, and that's where like too, I mean, like you brought up, like Cam Haynes and like, you look at Goggins, right? And all these people that like people like, oh, like those dudes are so badass and this and that. And I'm like, yes, they are. But what you don't realize, Cam Haynes didn't become the guy that he is, where he just went like, I'm gonna go freaking run a shitload. He's been running that long for 20 plus 30 years.
Yeah.
Like you don't just get there because like, oh, I just decided today I'm gonna be a badass. Like
that's one thing I will say. When you just brought up saying that, like it was crazy. I saw a clip on YouTube or on social media wearing his Mossy Oaks back in the day, and like how he was been in the game for this long and running back then.
Yeah.
Before he's,
what he is
Cam Haynes now. You know what I mean? Like he's put in that work, right? And that's one thing. With a perfect example is like, would I dare to fucking do a marathon with him? Fuck no.
No.
Would he dare to go in the ring with some of us? Fuck no.
No.
But that's what he's good at what he does, and he's fucking, he says all the time, like he was a runner and he just loved to bow hunt, and look what it got him.
Right.
He didn't dedicate himself like the motherfucker. It's crazy to me.
And those are such instances of like one of ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Because I mean, and like I met Cam when he came to Colorado.
Yep.
Really amazing that he did that.
Yep.
It came out and Gates.
What was that? The
outdoorsman days.
Yeah. I was out of town.
So we were at that, and it was awesome because the people that showed up and supported. Cam was like, I'll be there.
He did.
And for him to, essentially just volunteer to do it was super cool of him. But like, you look at him and like most things, right? Like you don't get a context where it's like, he, you see him on social media, like, oh man, look, like he's ripped, he's big and bad. And like, yeah, he is, but you also have to look at him and understand that like he's not like 6'3", whatever.
no.
Like he's a small
He's
guy.
smaller than me, I think. Yeah.
He's super efficient.
5'5", 5'6", I think.
Right. And it's like he's built to run.
Yep.
Right. He's built to run. And
I mean, I say that, but fuck, my short Mexican ass legs ain't built to run, dog.
Dude, no, here's my thing. Okay. Here's my thing. I feel like I'm coming up with lots of one-liners here, but I always tell people, I'm like, I will race you to the end of the block, just never around that bitch.
That's true, right? Me too. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up, it was like I played football, basketball, ran track, played baseball.
Yeah.
It was like everything I did was like sprinting.
Yeah.
It's 100% sprinting. You make me go out and run just for any long distance.
Ain't happening.
It's torture to
Yeah.
me. And that's what, now, like for me, endurance is doing this, getting out here in the mountains. Right. And like, as I get older, like the pounding to go out and friggin' do stuff like super, sprinting and all that stuff. Like, whew.
Yeah.
But like the chassis got some miles on it.
Dude, I know. Believe me.
It don't
that's why that's like playing, you play college ball, like baseball and all that. Like my dad always said, he goes, dude, this shit's gonna catch up with you one day. And I was like, yeah,
whatever.
I got this.
Yeah.
And up with me.
Yeah.
My lower back problems to my knee. Why, like, I started looking at I'm 44. I'll be 44 this month.
Yeah.
And I want to fucking still live a long life. I want the rest of the years I have.
Yeah.
So I'm doing as much as I can, working out and doing that. And speaking of that, like you were talking about like, your training methods, you have your training programs, but like, let's say like an average rucker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a good thing to have, like if a guy's just starting out, and like, do you think rucking is where it's at, like a good starting point?
Well, I spend a lot of time like watching forums, right? And people ask all questions like that all the time.
Okay.
And inevitably, like you'll always have guys that are like, I put a pack on my back at the beginning of the summer and I just go out and every day I hike, 2 miles, 3 miles, 5 miles. And by the time and I'm like, okay.
Is that the toughness though? That's that mental toughness though, I think, right?
There can be a part of that. Like, but going back to say like the military, right? Like the context of the military, right? Those guys have to, one of the tests that those guys have to go through is a 12-mile ruck with a 60-pound pack on. And then there's a time parameter to that. So you look at that and go, well, that's a bucket of suck it. Like that's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
right?
That sucks.
So they don't just train with a 60-pound pack on for the next 3 months to get there. We actually have them only ruck like twice a week.
Okay.
So they're gonna ruck twice a week. You might do a heavier ruck on one day and a lighter ruck for a little bit more pace on another day. Right. And so you work between those two where, for example, looking at it from a perspective of getting used to the load, right, which is big because the feet, the ankles, the knees, the hips, all that, like they're going to take a pounding. And if you're doing that every single day, like you'll gain a certain level of adaptation to that, which is good to an extent. But I think you really have to diversify what you do to get ready for that. So the rest of our strength work that we do and hip mobility, ankle mobility, some of those things that like we mix into all that stuff, kind of layer all those pieces in to build up some endurance and tolerance, where some of our even general conditioning, whether, and that can be anything. If you like to run, fine, run. If you like to bike, row, whatever, right? Build in some mixed efforts of stuff like that. Like for me, I like to kind of mix things up. I can't stand being on a bike every day. I'm not going to go run every day, so I kind of like mix and match a lot of those things and then sprinkle in the rucking piece and not have, I don't think that should be your sole method of, preparation. It's good to get used to having a pack on.
Yep.
Because usually the first thing, your traps are going to start firing up, right? Like when you get a pack on every day. So it's like, do that, but you should do other things on top of that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when it all boils down to it is motherfucker work out, do something.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Like whether it's, walking, jogging, rucking.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of where it all boils down to, get off the couch and go do it. Right.
Yeah. We do some testing. And I've done I've literally done every type of physical test you can imagine,
Uh-huh.
you know, just as part of school and education and stuff, you know, graded exercise tests where you're going to go until basically you just tap out, right? You're going to do things up to certain levels of heart rate, right? On a bike, I've done like a step test where you basically try to maintain like on a metronome, you have to stay on like a pace
Yeah.
for as long as you can, right? There's all kinds of those. And like we do one that's called functional threshold for power, which has been probably the most effective. It is the most effective way to determine like where for
Really?
you versus me for me, right? So for example, for me, I know that if I'm at about 148 beats, get above that, I'm going to get too anaerobic and my heart rate's too high and I'm going to start crashing.
Yep.
Every time that I start dipping into that, the well gets a little shallower, a little shallower, and a little shallower. She talked about like the day 2, day 3, day 4, right? On a hunt.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Your fatigue factor and ability to recover from that gets greatly affected. So give you an example. Last year, we did this thing with Gabe from Ivory Holsters. He does this death hike thing, which he kind of works a lot with the guys from Exo Mountain Gear. I know it's poo-poo to say here. I realize that.
Oh yeah, you're good.
But Gabe's like, hey, I want to do one in Colorado. And they're like, well, then start one. And so Gabe started one. So last year we did 40 miles in 36 hours.
Wow.
And we covered over 6,500 square feet or over 6,500 square feet down. And that entire time that I did that, I was doing this, monitoring. Because whenever I'm doing stuff when we're out in territory and country and stuff like that, is I'm constantly tracking data. I'm trying to figure out like, okay, how can I do? And so go through that whole thing. And as long as I stayed underneath there, I can keep going.
Really?
No matter what, I can keep going. It may hurt, it may suck.
Yeah.
But I know that if I try to like, oh, let's just freaking hammer this thing out, I'm gonna worst position to get the job done. And so we test for that in our facility.
That's smart. That's actually really smart.
And it's spot on. And then Jay's metabolic stuff, he will, when you get done with that test, he'll be like, here, this is how you need to now develop to stay in those zones, right?
In September.
Yep. 100%.
Or life period. You know what I mean?
Everything. Yeah. Anything.
I mean, let's keep it real. It's better to have this mentality over, 11 months instead of just 1 month, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot easier, right?
For sure.
Granted, I might be the worst critic out of it, but like I would, like even when I would fight, like I would, go training camps through so hard. I would take 2 months off, just become a bucket of turds.
Yeah.
Why? Why would I do that? I'm such an idiot. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's just,
I'm doing like no justice for myself, right? And all fighters do, but as they get older, like even Justin, as he was like starting to contend with like, get closer to contention of titles, he's like, dude, I got to stay ready, man. And I said, yes, you do. Do not fucking fall out, start eating shitty foods. And like,
you got to be in striking distance of where you need to be.
Yeah. And I think you're talking to a guy that likes to have beers, whatever I want to eat now, you know what I mean? But there's a diet and I do watch what I do, I mean, I talk a big game, but I honestly do. I'm not a piece of shit as people think I am, right? Like I try to do the right things and eat and but it's tough, it's a fine line of like I want to enjoy life.
Yep.
I want to be a fun husband and still not that I cannot do it without cocktails. But if my wife wants wine, I'm gonna get her wine and I'm gonna drink wine with her.
My wife is the same.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I think my wife lives off happy hour.
Yeah, she's
like, hey, we should go here. They got a cool happy hour. I'm like, okay, cool. And she's like, what do you want to eat? Like,
there you go. Yeah.
And I'm like, as long as I get food, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's my mentality.
Well, and I think that's why it's good to talk about it because like a lot of people are like, even like trainers, like, yourself and how I was is like, we're only human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we still enjoy life and still do things. It's just you know, I think I feel like more lately as I've gotten older and I've had kids now, I want to be around a lot longer and I
Right.
want to
For sure.
play with them. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that dad that's my kid's embarrassed to have around. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Or show off. That's where my whole mentality comes from now is like,
Yeah.
hey, don't be a fucking piece of shit, dude.
I don't know if you meant to say that. You said man like that.
Yeah, mentality. You know what I'm
I
saying?
like that.
That's it. It's it. Because it's not, you know, like everybody's like, oh, you know, the mentality of it. I call it mentality. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It
I like
really
that.
is. It is. It's true to
Well,
me.
and I think the other part of it too is like I tell people this all the time when it comes to like myself, right? Is you've done it. We spent so many years, you know, of training and sacrifice and doing all this stuff, right? Where I did that for a long time, and then early on in my career, you know, I was like as strict as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
Sundays was
Oh,
like cooking food,
absolutely.
weighing it out. I'm
You're
walking.
preaching.
I was shredded. I felt great at that
Yeah.
time.
No. Yeah.
I went from that where I was like, man, I feel so good, and you know, and everything else. And then I just got to the point where I'm like, I just want a freaking piece of pizza.
Yeah.
I want, you know, like I enjoy, and I got to that where like you have to find a balance within that, right? And it's like, yes, I like to have beer too, and I like to, you know,
Oh yeah.
eat good food and everything else, but it's like you just have to have enough where it's like enjoy life a little bit, but make sure you know what you know, don't sacrifice in the moment
Yeah.
for what you want most.
Well,
right?
it really is. It's like what's that? You good? Like honestly, like my whole deal was like I knew I was gonna do a podcast with you today, and I was like, it's Sunday, I'm gonna drink some beers, you know, and watch some football today. Like you know, and so I got up this morning and I got up, I did 3 miles on elliptical. I was like, usually I don't do shit on Sundays.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my deal, but I knew today I was gonna drink some beers, and I was like, I better get up on that elliptical.
Right.
But you know, at the same thing is just like, you know, I feel like I like to have fun, but you know, if you want to have that fun, you're gonna have to do some work too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. My whole my you know, with this whole thing of talking about training and being a human too, you know, a father or husband or whatever, like we're only human, and guess what, dude? There's a balance to both. There really is. I mean, and have I figured that balance out yet? No, but I work on it every day, and like you find out, like, oh God, dude, do I really need to get shit faced today? No,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, there's the point where you're gonna have a few, and then you know, get up in the morning, do your shit, you know. But I say that, and then there's days where I'll just fucking
let her rip,
tater chip, you know. But then there's the consequences of that because you know what I mean. Like you pay for, you know.
Them days ain't getting any easier.
Oh, when you get older, dog, it doesn't. I know, man, I know, but it's so fun, and that's the part where I try to tell people is like enjoy life, do what you want to do
for sure.
You know what I mean?
And it goes back to this whole conversation. Enjoyable is, man, I freaking love hunting.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you got to know, like, I want to continue. Like, I want to archery hunt 20, 30 more years, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully. So if that's my goal, then I have to know that with that is going to come a lot of other work, and it's going to be consistency, as we talked about, and some of those things.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's such a consistency. We were just talking about like how, you know, the podcast and work and everything. It's in everything though, right? Life.
Everything.
You know what I mean? Like consistency I think is probably one of the most important thing, whether it's consistency of dieting, consistency of working out, or consistency of just showing up for your fucking spouse.
Yep.
Practice, kids, whatever. You know what I mean? All it's consistency of everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is probably one of the most important thing. But how much, I mean, Tomas had kind of a question too, like, you know, you do all the training stuff, and I mean, I guess go ahead and ask him, Tomas, like what would
So on the nutritional side, how do you guys help with that? That's usually one of the biggest ones,
Yeah.
especially anybody who's trying to train,
Yeah.
I know that's one of my difficulties too.
It's called fucking ugly.
Yeah, especially when and I might
That's what I'm saying. I'm
tacos
married,
and
I know.
tortillas, bro.
Day-to-day nutrition, or are you talking about like hunt nutrition?
No, I would say day to day, especially with any type of training, right? Nutrition is a big factor, and you have to, put that into it with your.
Yeah. So I think it's really hard today if you're on social media,
Yep.
if you watch TV, right? Like you can get so inundated with ads and stuff that's out there about like the quick fixes.
What company's paying who to say
Yeah.
this? I mean, look at all this fucking endorsement shit on the celebrities taking Kamala and fucking Trump to, I mean, it's no different than podcasts. Like, yes, do these companies pay me to promote their product? Yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not a celebrity. I actually get to choose and pick who the fuck I want to work with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do I want to work with some of the best companies? Yes.
Of course.
That's why I shoot for them first.
Yeah.
How many times have I been no to a lot of different companies? A lot. But
for sure.
Yeah. That pay, right? There's that. So you never know. And you gotta, I mean, I didn't want to interrupt, but
no.
That's a good question.
I hear you. So, I think on a day-to-day basis, right, is you also have to look at the individual, right? And nutrition has so much more individuality than I think people think, right? Where it's like, used to be where you'd look at it and go like, oh, it's 40, 40, 20.
Yeah.
It's 40% should be carbohydrate, 40% should be protein, 20% should be fat, right? Like that. Well, it's like, well, that depends because that doesn't work for everybody, right? And then you have other people that will say like, oh, like, you just need to be in a calorie deficit, right? And you're like, not necessarily. And, the I'll disclaimer my answer a little bit, which is I usually tell people like, and I think a lot of people are guilty of this too, is like staying in your lane because I'm not a registered dietitian.
Yeah.
Dietitians. I know some of the best in the freaking country.
Yeah.
And so if I get into a situation where it's like, hey, what should I do? I'll be like, I can give you some general ideas, right? And I can give you some guidelines of things that I think will help you, right? First thing that I always do is I'll say, give me 3 days of a diet recall. And that one of those days has to be a weekend because we all know weekends.
Yeah, we all get fucked up on weekends.
Different story, right? And with that is I want to see everything that you eat, everything that you drink, right? And try and be as precise about it as you can. Did you put freaking ketchup on it? Did you, how much sauce? Like sauces can be killer for people because sauces are filled with all kinds of sugars, all kinds of
Tapatio, man. I'm a Tapatio man.
Sodium. I think sodium gets a bad rap, especially if you're athletic whatsoever, right? People are like, oh, you gotta watch sodium for high blood pressure. I'm like, that's a good propaganda that's been put out by the FDA, right? Fuck that. Because I'll tell the exact opposite again to if we're training and you're training hard or you're training consistently.
Yeah, you need that.
And you're sweating a lot.
You need that sodium.
I tell you to salt your food.
Yep.
Like the opposite, right? Because you need to replenish that. Yep. Same thing. Right.
Yeah,
like
you'll be cramping like a motherfucker.
You'll be cramping like crazy. So, so I think you start with that recall and then you look at it and go, okay, what are things that we can take out? What are things that we can adjust? How can we tweak it? What's your frequency look like? Right. And so I think that's how I typically start with people is like, we're going to begin a conversation around that. Yeah. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, how are we doing in terms of lean protein? Are you, are you grilling everything? Are you friggin' frying stuff, whatever, right? And it's like, you just find ways to start kind of manipulating a little bit of those variables. And I usually say the more color I can put on the plate, the better, right? And it's like, find the things that you like and then have those be your go-tos. If you don't like freaking cauliflower, you ain't got to eat cauliflower, but do you like green beans? Do you like, broccoli, whatever, right? And it's like go towards those things and then just develop some consistency, because the one thing that I think people miss like so much, like fasting is a good one, right? People are like, oh bro, just fast. I've dabbled with it, right?
I did my first fast. Fuck, I don't even know, a month ago.
Yeah.
That 3, 4 weeks, 3.
What'd you think?
I only did 2 48-hour fast, right? Yeah. And at first it was hard for me, but then I went to like my wrestling God, this ain't bad. I had to drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had something in you.
And but yeah, I mean, it was good. I mean, I dropped 11 pounds. You know what I mean? Like 11 pounds. I mean, granted, do I get that back? Yeah.
right.
But I think it was just a good kickstart for me to get back on on the horse. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's why I did it.
Some people do with fasting.
I don't know why they would do that.
Where they go like, I'm going to fast once a week. Like Pete Bomarita, who's, you know, historically trained
does that, huh?
hundreds and hundreds of, he's like,
yeah, I don't know.
He says he fasts every day till noon.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah,
Right.
people do that too.
I tell people like, I don't do intermittent fasting. I do kind of like more involuntary where I like forget to eat.
Dude, I'm on the go, and then finally my son's like, Dad, we ever gonna eat? I'm like, fuck, man, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry, Darkus.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
I didn't intentionally do it. And I'm like, oh shit, I just fasted for like 14 hours.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. But I don't know. I don't know. Will I do it again? I think so.
Yeah. And I think it's okay if you try stuff.
Yeah,
right? Like
I think that's.
I mean, if you try it and you're like, hey, I like because you talk to people like, man, every time I do that, the level get better and whatever. And it's like, okay, good. If it works for you, great. But the thing that I'll give you a good example. This is a funny story. So I trained a professional jockey once.
Like a horse jockey.
Small guy. Yeah. Right. And one of my pro guys did a car deal with him. And he calls me up and he's like, hey, bro, you looking for clients? And I'm like, sure, man, whatever. And he goes, you know that car deal I did? He goes, the dealer used to be a jockey. And he wants to come out of retirement because a buddy of his got a horse that they're grooming. And he wants him to ride it. And
okay.
I'm like, all right, cool. Right. And he goes, he's got to lose a little weight. I'm like, oh, here we go. Right. So he's doing one of these. Right. And he goes, I go, well, what's he need to weigh? And he's like, he's got to weigh 135 pounds.
Yeah. Where's he at?
And he goes, I go, well, what's he weigh now? He's like, what do you weigh now? And he goes, 208.
Oh, fuck.
And I go, all right. I go, try not to like poke a face.
Yeah, like how much time we looking at here?
That was the next question. I go, how long we got? He goes, how long you got? 4 months. And I go, tell him he better call me right fucking now.
I mean, that's fucking to the limits right there, bro.
So going back to your question, I'm not ducking you. So I go, we got to start tomorrow. We train 6 days a week for 4 months straight. The first thing I did was did the diet recall. And I said, here's what we're going to do. Drink a gallon of water a day, minimum.
Yep.
You're going to eat 6 times a day.
Yeah.
And he goes, what?
No working way. Yeah.
Bro, like, no, right?
I'm trying to lose weight now.
I'm trying to lose weight, right? Fast forward 4 weeks from there. And this dude just because what people don't understand is like, if you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Your metabolism is going to go like this. You eat, process, dive. Eat, process, dive, right? Yep. And you get into this mode. And what happens is that metabolically, your body starts to just want to like conserve calories.
Yep.
Because it goes into this like starvation mode where it's like, I don't want to like, what if I don't get fed again? Right. And there's some processes, you can talk about ketosis and the fasting thing or whatever. Like we won't get there, right? But so when you start increasing the frequency with how you eat or how often you eat, is you start getting this instead of this, right? So it's metabolism plus coupled with the fact that once you hydrate better, if you just hydrate better, like most people are dehydrated. I'm probably dehydrated, right? If you're hydrated, being properly hydrated will increase % just alone, right? At a higher rate, right? And your heart's not going to work as hard. You're going to have better, the viscosity in your blood will be better. So your heart's not having to freaking work so hard to pump blood through your system, right? And so we start doing that. Fast forward 4 months, 138 pounds.
Wow, Joel. Wow.
Yeah. And I got a little thing in.
He can see his dick again.
Yeah, right. First time ever. Right?
Fucking little jocker.
And then he goes on and he ends up riding in like 3 or 4 races and he wins one of them.
Nice.
He was out in Portland, right? And so I was watching it online, like simulcast, right? And I had a video of it, and he sends me a picture from like the winter circle. It was super cool.
Yeah.
And he lives out in Kentucky now. He like buys and sells horses. Like he's like,
that's dope.
I got into horse racing like crazy when I worked with this dude.
I bet.
I didn't know shit about it.
Fucking trifectas, bro.
And, dude, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a horse?
Yeah, dude. I've been to a couple of them, and like I was just like you. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing, and then I sat down with a few guys, and they broke it down to me real fast. And it's simple,
yeah,
but it's gambling. You know what I mean? Like when you.
Well, I used to watch. Like I would go watch like the Breeders' Cup with him.
And you got after you went Derby. You went did it.
Yeah.
Did it.
So
okay.
So then I would watch him, and like it's the same as a lot like degenerate gambler.
Yeah.
This dude's like he's betting on every freaking race, you know.
Yep.
And so when I went to Aurora Sports Park with him, he's like, "You're gonna gamble?" And I was like, "Sure." And I'm like, next race comes up. I'm like, "All right, what do we do?" And he's like, "No, you don't want this one. You don't want this one."
Yeah, get a little inside help.
So we fast forward like 3-4 races. He's like, "All right, you're gonna want to get in on this." I'm like, "All right, cool. All right, what do we do?" He goes, "How much you want?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I just like hand him like $30, right?
Yeah.
He goes, "All right, I'll be right back."
And he went and betted it for you?
He bets it for me. He comes back. He goes, "You're gonna want the 3 horse." I'm like, "All right." So we just sit there and watch. Race goes off. Yeah, fucking 3 horse winner.
Wow.
And I'm like, cool. He gets up and walks off. And I'm like, where are we going? He's like, the winner's circle, dummy. Let's go.
Yeah.
Walks downstairs. He knows the owner, the jockey, the dog.
Yeah, he's in it.
I'm like this in the winner's circle with
That
the
is
horse
awesome.
all 9 yards. I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
that's cool.
yeah, it was a cool story.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But that's, I mean, to your question was like, I think that's where I start with a lot of people. Is
Yeah.
you got to find out what they're doing. What do they like? What do they don't? Start building just like everything else in consistency and how you approach that
Yeah.
stuff. And you just have to be sensible, right?
Yeah.
Like, can you still have, a cheat day every now and then?
Yeah.
100%, right? But if you're 90% of the time on track with what you're doing, then you're probably going to see pretty good results, right?
I feel like in today's society, I think if you just tell like even the guys that are listening to the podcast, that when this comes out, like you want to drop some LBs, bro. Like it's pretty simple. Put down the soda.
Oh,
Quit drinking soda. Like that's
sugars.
that's like my go-to. Like, and like for some reason, every time I go out east and I guide for Nestor,
Mm-hmm.
I either want a fucking Mountain Dew or Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know why. But I fucking go in the gas station, I'll grab a fucking one. And the next day I'll wake up and I'll have a fucking zit on my cheek or on my nose,
Right.
like a little fucking kid. And I'm like, why the fuck did I drink this soda?
Yeah.
Right. But that's like honestly, like the sodas, I think people just stop there for
Yeah.
one.
Sugar's the biggest one.
Huge, man. It's just like no fucking sugar.
And people
man.
don't realize how much sugar is in
Every fucking thing.
everything, right?
Like literally.
And you look at prevention stuff with that, and especially, we don't need to go down that road, but like when you look at disease and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
like how much sugar is associated with all that stuff.
Everything. My creamer, dude. I put a little creamer in my fucking coffee. I looked into that shit and I'm like, whoa, what the fuck am I doing, dude?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But fuck, I'm not old enough yet to like my coffee all black. You know what I mean?
I know.
I like a little sweet. You know what I mean?
I do too. We
know what I
we do
mean?
sugar free.
Yeah. So that's what
They do
I just switched to.
Yeah.
And it's not the same, but I do it because I'm like, fuck, dude, I was putting a lot of, I might as well just grab the sugar fucking bowl and just dumped it in there.
Dude, I saw a freaking Wendy's commercial the other day, and they're talking about like, 7:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, the big ass one, they're like, lunchtime, and then late night. And I'm like,
the big motherfuckers they believe you.
You would be taking in probably 300 plus grams of sugar in a day.
Yep.
Like you want to freaking like straight track to freaking diabetes.
That's a fucking perfect way. to
Get
do
on
it.
that train
I know.
quick.
I know. That's why I said, like, I think, like, guys just listening, like, yeah, like, everybody says, oh, I'm going to do the carnivore. I get a lot of shit. People hit me up, carnivore diet.
Man,
And I'm
shitting
like
a monkey in
Yeah,
fucking no
that's-
time.
I'm like, I'm like, I can't do carnivore diet because I don't shoot enough elk. You know what I mean? Like I don't kill elk enough.
Right.
The last fucking 4 years, so I can't do the carnivore diet. But I tell people, I'm like, man, put the fucking soda away. Like you got to 86 that shit.
Yeah.
Soda.
The only soda I drink's got whiskey in it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even do that anymore. I literally will tell the other people, if it's fast food, it's not good for you.
Pretty much.
You know what I mean? If it's fried, it ain't good for you.
Nope.
Start there, do that for fucking a month of not having that. Guess what? You'll notice a big difference, dude.
For sure. And like to your point too, you're talking about like energy levels and stuff
Yep.
like that, right? Like you realize how much just drain that has on you.
I know.
Like the sugar, the fried stuff. And even, you know, like I'm not like a low carb guy. The ketosis stuff, like
Yep.
if you go like low carb and other stuff, like I've done it.
Yep.
It works, right? The hard part is people when they go like too far into that, right?
Yeah.
You talk about that like 1 p.m. nap,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You need at least 100 grams of carbohydrate a day for proper brain function,
Yep.
right?
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like you got to find where that's at. Yes, it will help to some degree, but you know, when you say diet,
Yeah.
the first thing that I think of when you say diet is short term. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
how many people you know are like, oh man, I started the carnivore diet. Oh man, I'm doing keto. Oh man, I'm doing this. And then you're like, all right, call me back in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, you ain't doing that.
Right.
You ain't doing it. Well, and that's kind of like where I'm at with this whole thing right now. And like where I'm at in life is like my wife's on like a whole program, like kid, like she's eating a bunch snacks through the day, bills, and she's on a mission. Love it. You know,
Great.
Good for her. Like, cool, do it.
Right.
I'm gonna do me still. You know what I mean? Like I mean, I'm doing me, and like sometimes she motivates me now. I see her drinking a lot more water. And I'm like, fuck, I need to start drinking more water too, because I know what it's missing all the time. Right. But like, you know, speaking of, you know, the water, like it gets so bland and whatever, but like now they have those electric lights in them. Dump the electrolytes in them, and I love that shit. Like the Element, the Apex now has their own flavor now. Like it literally, to me, I was when I was fasting, I was doing that the Element deal or electrolyte, dude.
Yeah,
game changer for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another one too, right? So like you mentioned the sugar. That's these two conversations. Is the amount of people like, oh, I'm just gonna grab a Gatorade. I'm like, oh, why?
Yeah.
Like, did you just get done working out? Are you training?
Yeah.
Because that's what that's for, right? Like most people don't understand that part of it either. Is like your Gatorade, your Powerades, all those,
sugar.
Like that's intentionally created. Like if you look on the back of one of those, right, and you look at carbohydrate, every one of those will be between 4 and 8% carbohydrate, which is the most ideal level of uptake to get those electrolytes back into your system to rehydrate you so you can maintain muscle function. If you don't need that because you just freaking driving down the road and I'm going to grab a Gatorade, then
it's not worth it.
You're just taking in sugar for no reason. And people think like, oh, Gatorades are good for you. No. It's like, no, Gatorade.
And that's good you bring that up, because I think a lot of guys, common sense wise, don't probably get that, because you know that have never had like the training that probably that we've all had, right? Like, and people, it's funny because I take it for granted. Like I'm like, what do you mean you don't fucking know this?
Right.
Like I feel like everybody should fucking know this shit, right? But
I'm telling you, man,
it's nuts. I mean, but you look at America. Look at the obesity in it. You know what I mean? Like,
bro, we did. I used to do NFL Combine and Pro Day prep, and I used to get players that would come from the South, and they were the great kids.
Oh yeah.
So I got guys from LSU, Florida State, Georgia,
fried chicken and shit.
and so we have a nutritionist on staff who's like making plans for these guys. And you talk about like not knowing. We literally had guys that because of just their environment that they're in, which is not their fault. And, you know, I don't blame them and I'm not knocking them or anything like that. They literally did not know. They'd be like, what do you mean? Coach, I'm eating chicken. I'm like, but it's from Popeyes.
Yeah.
And they're like, but it's chicken. And I'm like, No. And like that's the level of
They
understanding.
think it's chicken.
They
It's
think
good.
chicken's good for you.
And Popeyes is good though. I ain't gonna lie, dog. But like that's like honestly, like when you said combine, I just thought of that fucking guy doing the 40-yard dash with his dick coming out. Big old dog combine, fucking monster, fucking dick.
Oh, that's so
no homo though. Like
Right.
literally, it was a big motherfucking monster.
How about like the presence of mind to just go down?
I know, right?
Like he's like, oh shit, and he just kind of like found his way to the ground as fast.
I mean, he just fucking. I mean, if he didn't make it to the league, he made it in fucking 40th Street for sure.
Well, we call it combine the underwear Olympics.
Yeah, right.
Like got freaking 300-pounders in there and freaking spandex. Like, what are we doing?
I know. I don't get it. More aerodynamic, I guess.
Yeah, I got out of that game a little bit. I liked it. It's fun. I mean, like just the process. Like my master's thesis in speed, like biomechanics and stuff like that.
Okay.
So like teaching guys to run fast. We had 2 guys run electronic sub 4.3 40s.
Wow.
I had a 340 pound D tackle that started his career at Alabama, run 4.91. You want to talk about a freight train?
Fuck.
You don't want to get in front of that. Right.
No.
So like I love that process, but just the racket of all of it, everything that goes around it,
the noise.
I was like, man, it was 8 to 10 weeks.
You're like, I'm fucking with hunters now.
Yeah, 8 to 10 weeks of babysitting.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and just real quick on that whole thing now, like working with hunters, like have you had some pretty good success stories?
Oh yeah. I mean, I work with a guy this year, Jared, my buddy from Hunt League, which is have you ever seen Hunt League?
Oh,
Hunt League is such a cool thing. It's like its own kind of social media platform for hunting.
Okay.
Jared lives in down in Colorado Springs, Black Forest area. He started it like
Hunt League.
Okay. There's a social with Onyx too. So like there's a map where you can catalog hunts as far as like, say if you were out and you're like, hey, I bugled, and it would mark where you bugled, and then you could catalog whether or not you got called. And so you can catalog entire hunts, and then with the the Onyx, like with your GPSing and all that stuff. And the guy that won that's it year, Wally King. Wally has trained with me this whole last off season, and he's texting me from his reach while he's in the mountains this year.
Oh, no kidding.
And he's had historically a bunch of back that, and just a great dude. And he's like, man, this is the best I've felt in the mountains ever. He's like, I just feel like I'm ready. Like my body feels good.
And how long do you work out with you guys?
So I would put a portion of like an online program, and then he would come over and work out in person with me once a week.
Wow.
And the rest of it he would do like
on his own,
at home and do some things, and
which is probably pretty better affordable and stuff, right? So let's keep it real like that.
Yeah. And
not everybody can go every day to the gym and time.
He's got a family, right? And so, stories like that. I had a guy from Florida last year who drew a New Mexico tag, and he's like, what do I got to do? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Right. And so to me, when you get that kind of feedback,
everything's worth it.
That makes it all worth it. Right?
And that is what is going to keep the doors open, because word of mouth is so big in this. I mean, you can do this and that.
Yeah. And Jared, the guy that owns Hunt League, has done it. Like I've put him on some of our online programs.
Okay.
Because he lives, down in Colorado Springs. He's not driving up to me every day. Right. And so he started like working through
like online, right?
Yeah.
And that is a perfect good, because
I can't reach everybody.
Yeah. I get it. And like, and like not only that, but like certain people want to work out with certain people, but they might be across goddamn country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we've been fortunate with some relationships and stuff, like you, where we've managed to get some stuff out in blogs and things like that. Like we wrote an article for our friends at Numa called Flatlander Freedom.
Okay.
And it was like, how's the guy from Wisconsin and Missouri and those type, Florida, like I just mentioned, like how are you gonna you can't cheat the mountain, and you can't fake altitude.
I wish you could.
Right. And it's so like we've created programs where it's like we will put you on path to account for to the best of your training ability to get up here and acclimate and be fully ready.
Yeah.
Right. And so like some of that stuff I think is, where we're trying to continue spreading the word of what we do and how we do it and why it's different. And it's just a process. The nice thing is we've never had to be in a hurry. I mean, like sometimes I think of people, we're talking about being in, business.
Yeah.
Right. We didn't go and, take out a huge loan and be like, oh shit, we got to make this thing go or we're in freaking trouble. It was like, we have what we do and this is a part of what we do. And we don't have to hurry. We don't have to rush to like think that, we have to make a big splash. And, some of the players that are in the market, right. You mentioned, Dan, with Elk Shape. I think he's kind of changed. I don't see as much from him. I think he kind of pivoted a little bit in how he's doing stuff, which is fine. I've met Dan, just as a disclaimer, right? Like he's a great guy. Ass off.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to badmouth Dan,
Yep.
He's found what works for him and, and he's built a really good model and good for him. Right. Like,
and that's what I'm saying is like social media is such a big game. Like he has literally done what works for him. And people think, oh,
but
if he can do it
for you,
I want to do what he does because it's going to. That's not the case, dude.
Right.
Your body's not different than his.
I can't. I know I couldn't do what he does.
Yeah,
just
he's a freak, dude.
Just simply for the fact that he's the same size as Cam.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, he's.
And not that size matters.
It's not that I'm much taller than any of these guys. I'm right there with him, though. You know what I mean? Like it's just crazy. But yeah, it's just everybody's so different. I guess that's what we're trying to get the point of. Like his workouts ain't gonna work for everybody.
No.
Can's workouts not gonna work. My workouts ain't gonna work for everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think if anything, I want to highlight on why you're here and obviously because you're a buddy of mine, but the science behind it. You guys have literally the degrees in it, and this is not just a hobby for you. This is what you guys have literally developed your company off of.
Yes, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like that's
we got some cool research study on packouts.
Wow.
So as you know, we've been working with Guy and Jeff and Efren with
the Western Hunt guys
with Western Hunt Fest, and we met really organically through a mutual friend at TAC a couple of years ago. It's been like 4 years ago now, and when we met, they were like just starting to like figure out like what they wanted to do with this Western Hunt Fest, and they wanted it to be something that was different. So they do a 3D shoot that's scored. So you can't just, you can go shoot it just for fun. It's fine. Right. But everything is going to be scored.
Everybody likes a little competition.
Yeah.
Come on,
you know that for sure. Right. Yeah. But you're going to score who actually wins the shoot. Right. And it's third party scored. So if you and I go and shoot together, you're going to validate every arrow mine. I'm going to validate every arrow yours in your group. And then we have an elk calling contest, and we've had just amazing, like Joe Gillia from Elk Bros, Jermaine Hodge, world champion, Tony Gilbertson were there this year. Tony won the world championship this year, teaching people how to become better callers. And our portion of the event is a simulated pack out challenge. So you have what would be a quartered out bull elk represented in sandbag weight, and you have to carry out a Euro mounted elk rack
head
and your bow, right?
Just like the real thing. And so we not only are we doing it out in country, right? We're at places where you're going to be going up and down and through mountains and contour. American Bowman, perfect example.
Yes, at the American Bowman Club, which is where we started it. I love that place. And we've elevated that every year to where this year, every single last year we started a little bit, and this year we did where every competitor has a monitor on them, and we track their average heart rate, their max heart rate, their average speed, their max speed, distance covered, elevation gain, elevation loss, calories burned, and an estimated VO2 max competitor.
Wow.
And one of the guys on our staff, he is a professor at Tarleton State University down in Texas. He's a PhD in exercise science and physiology. So he's my like data guy. He's my chief of science, as I like to call him, because everybody likes titles and shit. So every one of those trials of people doing the competition, we put all that, send all that down to him, and he's crunched the data on those that are successful, those that are less successful. Are there any common? We're talking thousands of data points.
Wow.
On pack out challenge in the mountains looks like, and how were the people that were successful? Why were they successful? People that maybe struggle, and we actually have all that ready. We're getting ready to publish
Wow.
a research study, and then our goal is we're going to try and get some of this into like popular literature, like Bugle magazine,
Yeah.
Eastman's, stuff like that, and start like actually sharing this stuff outwardly of what, you know, what the whole competition is
Yeah.
about, which is the competition's awesome, right? Like we had huge, I mean, like the winner of the men's and women's division this
Yeah.
year, the women did like a mule deer, the men did a pack out.
Yeah. Cody, right? Cody won.
Savage.
Yeah. He's been on the show. He's my buddy. He would wrestle at UNC with Justin, and
Love that dude.
and dude, he just no quit Cody. You
No.
know what I mean? Like,
And
he's in a fitness
he-
too.
and
you
that's
know?
just it. So like
He
a
gets it.
he's
right?
a perfect example. Like he understands it, and he trains to get, you know, prepared, not just for that, but for hunting.
Yep.
And like he has it so dialed in. And there's like 2 or 3 guys that are like right in that
Yeah.
that
What
neighborhood.
the hell's his last name?
Macinich.
Macinich. That's it. That's it.
And
Yeah.
like, but like he has it to a science.
Yeah. I don't even know. He does BJJ at company. When we started talking, he's like, dude, and we were at archery shoot or whatever. He's like, dude, I wrestled with Justin. I said, shut up. And that kind of just started at the top, and then find out he does jujitsu and all this, and then he has a company too and a workout deal. And I'm like, dude, like you are a perfect specimen of what this is for.
Yeah.
Like, you should just clean house.
And he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but like the winner of, so we had 4 events this year, NRA Whittington Center, Cameo, which are the Western Slope, Cheyenne Mountain, and then the championship was at the American Bowman Club. And with just a support, like Kafaru was a big supporter. The Wild Sheep Foundation came on board this year, which was huge.
Yeah.
And the winner of the competition won like $8,000 in cash and prizes this year.
Damn.
And I was like, if that don't motivate some people to get their asses in gear,
that's crazy.
Like,
that's gonna be a fucking hunt for people.
And it's awesome.
I don't know. That's a lot of work for me to do. Yeah,
how could I make 8 G's quick? Without it.
Yeah, that's a cool concept though. Like, especially I love those guys over at Western Hunt Fest. Like,
they're just great dudes.
Yeah, they've been nothing but great for me. I don't know. I guess if you had to say, in a nutshell, like, why? What separates you, real quick? Like, why should people come to you?
First and foremost,
like an elevator speech, like
my elevator pitch.
Yeah,
right?
What is your elevator pitch?
Our tagline is train for a better hunt, and our mission is to make sure that we think of it from a perspective of like most people have a week, 7 days, 10 days, right? That they look forward to every year.
Yeah.
Right. And our goal is to make sure that we help best prepare you to maximize that experience.
Damn, that's a good tagline right there, dude. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and anybody that's ever hunted knows what that's like to have a shitty fucking hunt because your fucking ass can't even tie your fucking tennis shoes.
Right.
I've been guilty
We've all
for
been
that.
there.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a definitely good cat. That's good. Well, good for you guys, man.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
It's good. So you guys, your spot here in Denver, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what can people come and check you out and do?
I mean, we're in the process right now, as we mentioned beforehand. Moving facilities. We're gonna be pretty centrally located. Right now, we're off of about I-70 in Monaco.
Okay.
And we're gonna move a little bit further west and a little bit like just south of downtown. But you can go to hunthikeharvest.com.
Yep.
That'll tell you where we're at, or you can go to fastcolorado.com is our sport performance training side. And so they're one and the same. We operate out of the same building, but it just, depending on, if you're an archery guy that's looking to to get better, you're going to walk in the same door as one of my pro lacrosse guys does,
Yep.
and ultimately it's just one of those things where like for me, the most fun about this is like just being part of something like a different industry.
Yeah.
Like, in the sport world, like everybody, everybody's infighting, like who did this and why, who's better and all this. And I think that's been the most enjoyable part about being in
the outdoors.
The outdoor space.
Yeah, me too.
Everybody's just so much more inviting.
Me too. 100%.
They just want to be helpful. They're interested in what you're doing.
100%.
Respectful. And like that to me has just been so like such a breath of fresh air. And it gets me into doing what I want to do more. Right? And getting more opportunity to do that. So that's where for me it's been the most enjoyable.
I would totally agree on you on that too. Yeah. Is there anything we left out that you want to touch up on?
I don't know. I mean, we can continue telling all kinds of
stories. I know.
Stories,
well, I mean, you can always bullshit.
But I think that, that's a pretty good look at us and what we're about.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, once you guys get back up at the new location, maybe we just bring you guys back out and tell you guys do another one. A little grand opening deal, something going to happen.
Yeah. We'll come down. You can come. You'll come.
Yeah. I'll come down and do a little workout with you guys.
Heck yeah. Anytime.
That'd be cool.
Anytime. Maybe we could do that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Because spaces.
I show you my CrossFit moves.
I love it. Dude. we're gonna wall balls and shit.
Yeah, fucking some wads. Yeah, I won't. I'm not making fun of CrossFit. Well, actually, I am, but it's not that I don't like CrossFit. Like, it's not for me, right?
Yeah.
And like my whole deal is like, I'm cool that you do that.
I think you can do it. My thing is, I think you can do periods of it, like depending upon where you're at. But I think it's tough to do long term.
Yeah, I'm cool with everybody that's doing it because they're motivated. They're getting off the couch.
They've done so much.
Doing it.
For people, right? Like thousands of people that got sick of like bullshit bodies.
Yep.
That like wanted a place with the culture and camaraderie. Like,
got it.
I'm on board.
Yep. Cool.
100% on board.
100%.
Love all that, right?
But don't come over here and act like you're fucking Tommy Tough Guy because I'll knock you the fuck out. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. But that's why I do get a lot of the CrossFitters that come into the gym and they're like,
it's
everywhere. I'll fuck you up, dude.
In the tactical space.
Oh,
firefighters and like it's just part of it, right? And
I know.
It's education. It's going back to education.
I know, it's crazy.
It is.
Well, Joel, like honestly, man, I just appreciate your time coming on here on a Sunday.
Hell yeah, man! I'm so glad we made it happen.
I know, dude. I'm telling you,
I started to feel like an asshole.
No, I was like, God damn it, dude. And I was like, oh, let's just do it then. And then you couldn't do it because you had stuff going on. And I was like, oh fuck. And I was like, hey, if you can do it, let's do it. Because I'll make whatever happen on my end make it work.
I'm glad we did. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it because, well, not only that, but we'll bring you guys back out and we'll do another one. And we'll see you guys, obviously, this winter, summer, spring for shoots.
Yeah.
So it'll be good. I don't know.
I know, like the shows are coming up too. I know, like a Mile High will be coming up again. Which was awesome.
Great show.
I'm so pumped.
I know. And it's in our backyard. How cool is that, right?
That's why IC called me yesterday, actually.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
I'm pumped that Phil and Abe like just knocked that thing out of the park.
Dude, they are literally the best guys that could probably pull something like that off.
And did.
It did, honestly. Yeah, that did put some and continue to do it. I know.
So yeah.
Anyways, why? So where can they find you at?
HuntHighCarvist.com. You can go to at if you go to our Instagram. Just go to Instagram at HuntHighCarvist.
Yep.
We don't tweet.
Yeah, I don't either.
Whatever the hell that shit.
Yeah.
We have a Facebook page, but
my shit's all linked in my IG, dog.
100%.
That's it. Yeah. I get it. Like honestly, you guys want to step up your game. Now's the time. It starts now.
That's right.
Right? Like it really does. And that's why I say, like, honestly, I cannot preach enough, guys. It's just, everybody wants to buy all expensive boots, packs, bows, but the best piece of equipment you can invest in, you fucking self, right?
You got it.
I know. Damn, I'm like a poet now. Shit. As I drinking fucking Modelo's.
Drop the mic right there.
Oh shit. All right, we out.